So I have been making it a mission to, which is going to be an extremely large number of books because I have no idea. And we're just gonna have to see where the things blah, 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 blah. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. If you are new here, welcome to the channel and welcome to my Contemporary-A-Thon TBR. So for those of you who have followed me for a while, you know I don't make TBRs ever. But I do like to throw together a gigantic list of books when I'm doing a readathon, A, because there's challenges that need to be met, and B, because I'm trying to read a whole bunch of books off my shelf. I am sticking with my mission that I have started in 2020, which is reading what I already own, reading what's already on my shelf. I recently did a psychotic book outlet haul, which I actually purchased in December, so technically I am still on my 2020 no-buy plan. And I'm gonna kind of just see how long I can make this go. But I have pulled together a whole bunch of books for Contemporary-A-Thon. I am excited to get into it, so let's just do that. Before we dive into the books, let's just get into the details of Contemporary-A-Thon. So this is a readathon being hosted by Chelsea from Chelsea Darling Reads, Natasha from My Reading is Odd, and Julie from Pages and Pens. So I will include their channels down below. I will include all of the challenges down below. And most importantly, this is being held from February 10th to February 16th. And they're also doing a live show, and I will include those details down below too. So as per usual, a lot of the books that I'm picking can fit multiple challenges, but I'm just gonna kind of like read through the challenges, show you some of the books that I picked off my shelf, and you guys will start to see how they can apply to multiples. But the first challenge is to read a book with green on the cover. So I have a lot of green, which is exciting. And the first one I picked is called Daisy in Chains by Sharon Bolton. And this is a book that I've had on my shelf for a super long time. And it is a mystery thriller, and we have a serial killer on death row. And he has been convicted of a bunch of heinous crimes, of killing, I believe, a bunch of young girls. Yeah, serial killer. And it's basically like all the evidence against him is irrefutable, but he is adamant that he is innocent. And he winds up reaching out to, I want to say she's a defense attorney, and she's a true crime writer and a defense attorney. Her name is Maggie, and she sort of resists all requests to meet him, but kind of finally gives in for whatever reason, don't need to know. And what winds up happening is apparently he's quite the charming serial killer, and I think she sort of gets charmed by him, so to speak. So I don't get the sense that he's like Hannibal Lecter, but she basically kind of gets pulled in by him, and then in the process of investigating his case, everybody's got secrets, all sorts of stuff starts to come out. It just sounds really interesting. It sounds really twisty to me. I don't want to say I got like back into serial killer mode after I read 13 by Steve Kavanaugh last year, but I kind of did. So like I said, I've had this for a while, so I'm intrigued about it. Great opportunity. We'll see if I do it. The next book I have is Sophie Kinsella's Finding Audrey. And I bought this book for one reason only, and it's because my name is hardly ever in a book title. And I thought it was kind of fun to have it, and then I never read it. But this is a YA contemporary, and our main character, Audrey, sounds a little Eleanor Oliphant to me. So she's kind of reclusive. It says she wears dark glasses almost all the time, almost never goes out, doesn't talk to new people, finds making eye contact to be nearly impossible. And then she winds up meeting her brother's friend, Linus, and they develop a friendship, and then I think it develops into something more. So it says, this book will bring you back to how invincible and euphoric you felt during your first young love. But it sounds like Audrey's got some secrets that she considers to be dark and doesn't know how he could ever love her once he's seen her at her worst. So we'll find out. So it says teenage insecurities with humor, heartwarming. I always like Sophie Kinsella's writing. I kind of liked her humor, her wit, and I thought this one could be fun. The next book is one you guys have seen multiple times on this channel, but you never know what mood I'm going to be in, and it's Rachel Kane's Stillhouse Lake. And this is another mystery thriller. This is another serial killer one, actually. And our poor protagonist, Gina, who is married and they have kids, and like she kind of has like, she's got a good life. Things are going well until she finds out that her husband is a serial killer, and then not so well, as you can imagine. So her husband goes to jail, she moves the kiddies away, and then I don't know if it's like a year later, something happens that I think is like reminiscent of the MO of her husband, who's the serial killer, but he's in jail. So I don't really know what's happening. This is part of a series. I talked about this in my series I want to start in 2020. So if you haven't checked out that video, I will include it for you guys, but I might be feeling kind of dark. So of course I need some dark books here. The next challenge is to read a contemporary from an author who is new to you. And I have a couple books for this one too. The first one is Before We Met by Lucy Whitehouse. And this is another thrillery kind of book. I know there's gonna be a theme, but I love a thriller. So this is about a woman who is also presumably happily married. And Hannah's husband, Mark, goes on a business trip and doesn't come back. And she starts to dig into his past, and it says that Hannah's questions will uncover secrets that throw into doubt everything she's believed about her husband, secrets that lead her to a place of violence and fear. Can you ever really know what happened before you met? So I have heard some great things about Lucy Whitehouse, and I have picked up another one of her books also. Keep You Close, which is another one I've heard great things about. I'll be honest, this one's shorter. I've also had this one longer, and I'm curious about it. So you guys know I love a thriller, so I'm gonna check out Lucy. And then another one, which I've had on my shelf for a long time, is Not That I Could Tell by Jessica Strasser. And I am familiar with Jessica Strasser because she used to be the editor of Writer's Digest magazine. This is her second book, I believe, and I bought this a while ago. I haven't read it. It's been likened to, I want to say like Big Little Lies is kind of how it was pitched, but then reading some of the blurb on it, it reminds me a little bit of Someone We Know by Sherry LaPena, and kind of a little bit of Never Have I Ever, which I just read by Jocelyn Jackson, which I talked about earlier in January as one of my January reads. And reminiscent in the sense that it is kind of a small town, little neighborhood feel to it, and there's a circle of moms who get together, hang out, all this good stuff, and then one of the moms goes missing. And it sounds like there's like a whole bunch of suspects in the group, and I don't know if it's like the husband obviously is probably going to become a suspect, but it says a widening circle of scrutiny, a lot of suspicions. So police investigation happens. What's going on behind all of their closed doors? How well does anyone really know anyone? I want to say I had held this book up a while ago, and I've heard some so-so reviews on it, but I'm curious. I have it. So I either, I also am making it a mission to read a lot of these backlist books or else move them out because they are taking up very valuable real estate on my bookshelf. So this is one I might be in the mood for too. The third challenge is to read a diverse contemporary, and I have two books to choose from depending on where my mood is. And the first one is Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. And this is a literary courtroom thriller. So getting a little bit different here. And this is about a woman whose child has autism, and she is accused of killing him. So she's a young single mom. And the author of this book, Angie Kim, is from Seoul, South Korea originally, and then her characters in this book, as much as it is about the trial, it says about the immigrant experience. I guess there is an element of own voices to it. Angie Kim herself has 3 children, and I had been reading a little bit about her, and it said that they have all had different medical challenges. So I think there's an element of her own personal experience with her children that she brings to the book. So I have heard some wonderful things about this one, and I'm super, super curious about it. So I've got this going. And then the other one I have is They All Fall Down by Rachel Housel Hall. And she is an African-American mystery writer. She has a detective series as well. This is, I think it's her first standalone. I've heard some mixed reviews on it, but this is a very And Then There Were None type of book. So all these people get invitations to this resort in Mexico, and they're all super excited about it. And I believe they're all strangers. And one by one, they start getting picked off. I just love it. I love it. I love And Then There Were None trope is one of my most favorite of all. And I've talked about this in another video also. The book that I am currently working on is kind of a closed circle mystery. So it's not strangers being lured to a place, but it's a group of friends sort of in an isolated mystery kind of a way. So I'm sort of in that zone right now. So this might be the one that happens for me instead. The next challenge is to read a backlist contemporary, which is something that has been on your TBR for over a year. And the first book I picked up is one that I have shown on this channel before also, and it's Everything You Want Me to Be by Mindy Mejia. I always say this name wrong. I'm sorry, you guys, this is really getting whited out. It is another thriller, suspense, psychological thriller, I think, twisty. So Hattie is, I want to say she's a college or a high school senior, and she's found brutally stabbed to death. Tragedy rips right through the community. So Hattie was kind of up to no good and doing some secret online relationships, and it sounds like she was up to a whole bunch of things that nobody even realized, and kind of living this double life. And I believe in this book we get current timeline of what happens. So obviously we know, like, out of the gate that she gets murdered, and then I think we go back in time a year and maybe see things from Hattie's perspective to see how we got to the point where she gets murdered. So I've heard some really great things about this book from a whole bunch of different people as well. Shelby from Shelby Taggart Reads, April from Getting Hooga With It. So this is one that I definitely want to read, and it's one of those ones I keep picking up and putting down for no good reason. So this might happen. And then in a much lighter note, I have Alison Wynne Scotch's Between Me and You. And she is an author that I'm a huge fan of, and she writes some wonderful stories, typically about relationships and friendships and the complications of it. And one of my favorite books, Time of My Life, is one of those, like, being able to sort of live your life over again, which is another one of my favorite tropes. Like, if you could go back and do it all over again, what would you do differently? And this book is about a married couple named Ben and Tatum. So when they first got married, they were both sort of unknowns, I would say. So he was a fledgling screenwriter and she was a struggling actress. They meet in New York City, they get married, fall in love, all the wonderful things. And then Tatum's career, I believe, takes off and Ben starts to fade, and it puts a strain on their marriage. And this story, it says they're at a crossroads and now all they can do is think back. So I believe we're gonna go back in time a little bit with this book, and they're trying to figure out, do they belong together? Are they going to stay together? And I think, can they survive sort of this power struggle that's happening, and probably the ego that's happening with Ben's career not being successful and Tatum's having taken off. So, like I said, she writes beautiful stories about friendships and complicated relationships. I want to say I've cried in every single one of her books that I've read. So this has been on my shelf entirely too long, and that's why I pulled it off. Challenge number 5 is to read a dark or hard-hitting contemporary, and oftentimes this usually means thriller, so why not? I have Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. This is, I picked up a couple B.A. Paris books in that crazy book outlet sale. I've never read any B.A. Paris. I've heard tons of great things about her books, and I feel like this is the one that sort of catapulted her into the stratosphere. And this is about Jack and Grace, who are an inseparable couple. Everybody, I think, kind of seems to think that they're perfect, but there's some things that just don't quite seem right. Mostly that Grace doesn't seem to be able to do anything without his permission or without him by her side, I think. So it becomes this question of, like, what's really going on behind closed doors. I think it's very twisty and dark, and it says the perfect marriage or the perfect lie. I need to get some B.A. Paris in my life. And then another book that I have had on my shelf also for entirely too long, so you see the theme is happening here, is The Darkest Corners by Kara Thomas. And this is unfortunately one of those books that, like, it's a hardcover built in, so there's no, I have no idea what this book is about. There's no synopsis anywhere in this book, but I believe this is a YA, and I want to say there's like two girls who, I want to say they maybe like lived in Philly or something at the time, and somehow were involved in like a murder trial maybe. Hold on, let me read what this book's actually about. Okay, so I was like a little bit right. They are in Pennsylvania, and when Kelly and Tessa were 9 years old, I think they witness a murder, or they somehow are responsible for this guy winding up on death row. So again, we've got like another theme in like the books I seem to be reading right now. And for whatever reason, Tessa has to go back. And it says, getting closer to what really happened, the closer she gets to a killer, and this time it won't be so easy to run away. So it sounds mysterious and murdery and psychologically twisted. And then it had me, so it says like for fans of Gillian Flynn and Pretty Little Liars. So I mean, shut up, obviously. I'm gonna love this book. And it says, this is a psychological thriller about the lies little girls tell and the deadly truths those lies become. So I don't know what these ladies did when they were 9 years old, but it sounds like it's going to come back to haunt them in the present day, and I am going to be here for it. Challenge number 6 is to read a contemporary with an illustrated cover. So choice number 1 is The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. And this book is about two people who don't know each other at all, Tiffy and Leon. And in order to save money, they are sharing an apartment. But the hitch is they're never in the apartment at the exact same time. And it sounds like they're really trying to save money because they're sharing a 1-bedroom apartment, which means they're sharing a bed without sharing a bed and without ever having met each other. So it's like, I want to say like she's there at night and he's there during the day or vice versa. And they communicate through notes or letters and they kind of learn about each other by being in the apartment when the other one's not there. So I think it's kind of like a strangers to lovers type of a thing. And I believe you see it from both of their perspectives. This is one of those books I've heard such great things about. I want to say Chelsea is one of the first people I heard talk about this book. And I find it's one of those books that I think people either like love it or don't, which is probably the case with a lot of books, but I'm curious about it. It sounds cute, like a very interesting concept. So I feel like there's a little suspension of disbelief that they never ever cross paths, but I will be here for that. And then the other illustrated cover book that I've pulled off the shelf is The Case for Jamie by Brittany Cavallaro. This is the 3rd book in the Charlotte Holmes Jamie Watson trilogy. So I read the first 2 books in this series at the end of December and loved them both, raved about them both in my December wrap up. So this is book number 3, and it might just be time. I was trying to give myself a little breather so I don't devour the whole series because there's one more book after this. So maybe now is the time to jump in. I should probably tell you what this is about, but it is modern day. So Charlotte Holmes and Jamie Watson are the great grandchildren of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson, and they wind up meeting at prep school. A murder happens very early on in book number 1 and they become the prime suspects in it. So they wind up forging a bond, obviously, and trying to solve the murder. And it is the whole history of Sherlock Holmes, and it's created this whole sort of like interwoven what could have happened if they were the grandchildren of them, and what happened between the two families, and the Moriartys are in this, and it's very good. I was not a huge Sherlock Holmes fan in the sense that I'm like super knowledgeable of his works, and you don't need to be. They weave in the details for you here, but this is way darker than I thought, more twisted. Charlotte has a lot of problems, and I love all of it, and it really blew me away. I really enjoy the writing. It's very smart. It's just so well done, thoroughly enjoyable ride. So I need to continue with the series, and like I said, this might be the time to do it. The last challenge is to read a book that is beloved by a member of the book community and to shout out that creator. So I didn't pull new stuff off the shelf because basically this is Leanne from Literary Diversions, screams about this book, so I need to read it. I would say Chelsea for sure, Chelsea Darling Reads for The Flat Share, amongst a whole bunch of other people. I have heard great things about Miracle Creek from a whole bunch of booktubers. I have heard great things. I already talked about April and Shelby talking about this book. And I'm sorry, I'm like searching all over the place. I feel like Kayla from Books and Lala for sure talked about Lucy Whitehouse. I don't remember if it was this book specifically, but she was talking about Lucy Whitehouse as a writer being amazing. So once I figure out which books I'm actually going to read, I know one of these books is going to fit that challenge. And when I do my wrap up, I will let you know whose book I picked. So somewhere in that pile of books, I am going to read a few of them and hit those challenges for Contemporary-A-Thon. And I have not done a readathon in months, so I'm excited to get back into this. I'm excited about the books I've picked. Let me know if you guys are participating, if there's like one book in particular that you're super excited about. Let me know down below and we can talk about it. And I will for sure wrap everything up afterwards and let you guys know what I did read. Thank you so much for watching today and for spending some of your time with me. If you are new here and haven't already subscribed, definitely feel free to do that because that would be amazing. I put out new videos 2 to 3 times a week, and I am super excited to see all of you guys back here in the next one. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.